Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
You're listening to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Joe, and I have some incredible stories again for you today. So I'm going to start with one about a pit bull and a veteran. The story is a little bit crazy. So an 88-year-old veteran saved a young girl from a pit bull attack, and it's in a way that you won't believe. So Leonard Miller from Canton, Ohio, was just hanging out at home one evening when his 13-year-old neighbor came banging at his door. And she was absolutely hysterical, in tears, screaming. She said, "Our dog has got a hold of my little sister and he won't let her loose." So Leonard Miller actually served as a medic in the Korean War, and he just jumped right up to action. So now this is a little bit of a surprising part. So before entering the house, he grabbed a 3-foot nutcracker from their outdoor Christmas display. Obviously, he had nothing to fight back with. So he grabbed this 3-foot nutcracker. And when he walked inside, all he could hear was a 10-year-old girl screaming and saw blood absolutely everywhere. Just can't imagine walking into that scene. Then he went around the corner and the pit bull was on top of the little girl, growling. He actually had her by the upper arm and was shaking her so violently, her arm was pulled out of the socket. So Leonard hit the dog over the head several times with the toy soldier, but when that didn't work, he had to hit the dog on the back of the neck, and then it finally let go, just for enough time for this little girl to escape to the front yard. He locked the dog in the house and then rushed the girls over to his home and called the ambulance. So he was very, very concerned, obviously, and didn't sleep a wink all night long, especially because the medic said that the girl might lose her arm. Well, luckily the little girl is okay, and the owners surrendered the dog to be euthanized due to the attack. Leonard is being hailed as the hero for his action and quick thinking, but he said the victim's older sister really deserves the praise. You know, talk about quick thinking to jump on your feet and just grab what's available to you. I know I definitely would not have thought of that. Absolutely crazy. So Wednesday night, some shoppers at Walmart and TJ Maxx in Palm Springs, California, received a very special surprise. So let me just rewind a little bit. You may know Sia, the pop singer. She's most known for her single Chandelier. And she's the one that wears a wig covering her face while she performs. It's usually the black and white wig, and you can't see what she looks like. This just allows her some privacy when she's not on stage. So, she was not hiding now, though. She was hiding behind, she called herself Cece, and said that she won the lottery. But she was standing in Walmart and TJ Maxx, just buying everybody their groceries or whatever that they were doing. She just kept going to till and swiping her card. And so a lot of people did just think she was this random girl named Cece who won the lottery and was just giving back over Thanksgiving. She kept going to the next one, and the next person just would not stop helping. But, of course, some diehard fans did recognize her. So this was, her way of paying it forward for Thanksgiving. And, you know, it's really beautiful that she didn't want people to know who she was. Like, I just think that's so special when you do such a kind thing for someone and you don't want to take any big responsibility for it. You don't want to take the praise for it. And so that's kind of what Sia's all about. She performs like you wouldn't know who she is, so she can have some normal life outside of it. And she even gives back and doesn't want people to know who she is. So I just think that's so beautiful. My next story is about a professional golfer named Brandon Matthews. So he was in a tournament, and it was his last putt of this tournament, and if he did win it, he was going to be, first of all, the winner of the tournament and the exemption to play in the next year's British Open that comes along with it, which is a really big deal. So he was distracted by a sound, and he missed his 8-foot birdie putt that was absolutely crucial to winning the tournament, and like I said, to play in next year's British Open that comes with it. And so at first, Brandon was really frustrated because he thought that someone had done this intentionally, had made a sound as soon as he was making the putt, and obviously it threw him off and he didn't make it. And the guy below him ended up winning the tournament and obviously going to the British Open. So he was pretty upset at first, of course. And the tournament director apologized and came up to him, apologized for the whole situation, and he explained it was a fan with Down syndrome that got too excited and made some sounds while he was putting. And I guess Brandon immediately forgot about any frustration or any anger, anything he had to the situation, and he just wanted to meet the fan. So they did meet each other, and I guess the missed putt just seemed like a complete distant memory. Gave him a big hug and even signed a glove for the young man. And he said that he just wanted to make sure that he was enjoying himself at the tournament and that there were no hard feelings. Make sure he didn't feel bad about what happened. So that's really why he wanted to go over and meet him. He didn't want anyone to be mad at him or for him to be mad at himself, and then just to make sure he knows that he wasn't mad at him. I just think it's so beautiful. Brandon actually grew up with people close to him that had Down syndrome, so he has a very special place in his art for people with Down syndrome. It's just really special to him. So he did miss out on a huge opportunity in a major tournament, but he found a new perspective on things, and he said, some things are bigger than golf, and this is just one of them. I just think that's so wonderful because it is a big deal. Those tournaments are huge. You work really hard to get to where you are, and something like that to happen, it is upsetting, but Brandon found a new perspective and the brighter side to it and was able to come out in a more positive aspect. So I just think that's lovely. Okay, have you ever been at a restaurant or a fast food place, maybe even just a coffee shop, whatever it was, and it seems like the workers are running around like just absolutely crazy busy? Well, there's a Waffle House in Birmingham, Alabama, and it's a 24-hour Waffle House. And there was an employee, his name was Ben, and he was working completely by himself. He was trying to serve nearly 30 people by himself after midnight, but he ended up getting a whole lot of kindness when some customers jumped behind the counter to help him. I think this story is crazy. So people saw him being so overwhelmed. He was trying to cook food, serve it, bus tables, wash dishes, while more than 25 people were sitting to eat at the same time. And Ben, this wonderful employee, was doing it all by himself. Obviously, he looked overwhelmed, so some people literally just started to jump in, just random customers. An unidentified customer decided to help him out by grabbing an apron and going to the back counter to wash dishes just to help him keep up with things. And then all of a sudden another customer started brewing coffee, even in her stiletto heels and sequins dressed. She said, "I don't think it's anything special. He needed help, so I got up and helped him out." Can you imagine going for some food, probably after a night out of drinking or something, and ending up washing dishes in your sequins dress? That's so wonderful. So Ben focused on taking the orders and preparing the food while the customers were doing, the cleaning, the busing, dishes, that kind of thing. And so I guess the company did say that this happened because of a scheduling miscommunication issue. The director of PR and external affairs, Pat Warner, said the company is very thankful for the customers that helped out, and that they're so blessed that so many customers feel like they are part of the Waffle House family. There's just such a sense of community in each and every one of the restaurants. They really appreciate the fact that they consider our associates family. So they also said they're very thankful for Ben, who kept the restaurant open. He is a testament to the Waffle House culture by always putting customers first. That story just shows humanity sure is great. You know, you go to a restaurant because you want to be served on, because you don't want to go home and cook. I just think it's so wonderful how people jump up right away when they see someone in need and just become a full family. I have one more quick story. I just had to share it before we take a break. St. Luke's Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri, over Thanksgiving, welcomed 12 twins at a time. 12. Over the course of, I think it was almost a week, but it's the largest amount of twins that they have ever had at once. They usually do get multiples, but not 12. So this hospital in Kansas City, Missouri, they welcomed 12 sets of twins. Over the week, all between 5 and 12 weeks early. So they are being cared for by the staff. Some are looking at longer stays than others, but some are hoping to have their babies home for Christmas. I think it's such a weird coincidence that 12 twins came at a time. I don't know what's happening in our universe, but I think that is a sign, and I think that's so crazy. I just wanted to share that little story with you because I was a little bit mind blown about 12 twins at a time in one hospital. All right, so it's time for a break, but when we get back, I have a story about two dads and how they are helping the LGBTQ homeless community have a roof over their heads. So stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We are back listening to the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. My next story is about two dads from Wisconsin and their mission to make sure that LGBTQ teenagers have roof over their heads. So Brad and Nick are the co-founders of Courage MKE. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's a non-profit organization that provides resources to homeless LGBTQ youth. So I found this statistic that LGBTQ plus teens have 120% higher risk of homelessness compared to heterosexuals. 120% higher risk. I think that's crazy. So Brad and Nick did see the need in this area, and back in 2015, Brad had the idea to host a fundraiser to support displaced LGBTQ youth. And then that fundraiser went so well, not too long after, Courage MKE was launched. So this is a nonprofit organization, like I said, and it just helps the homelessness of the LGBTQ youth community. So in June of 2019, the organization opened its doors to the Courage House, which is the first ever licensed group home for LGBTQ youth in Wisconsin. And only a month after they opened, they had their first child live with them. And now they have 5 already, which is the maximum amount that they can have in their home. So they are a full house right now. It's not just a place to sleep, they said. It's on-site therapy, and they receive assistance with healthcare, life skills, and family reunification. So it's not just a place to lay your head. They actually offer such other great resources for the youth, which is amazing, you know. It's a lot more than just a pillow, which it's beautiful. So how did this all come together? So after fostering their first teenager, Annette, who was kicked out of her parents' home for identifying as a lesbian and didn't feel welcome actually at a homeless shelter that she had fled to. It was a woman's only homeless shelter that she fled to. So Brad and Nick discovered the amount of homelessness in the LGBTQ youth community. They had no idea that so many kids weren't sleeping at their parents' home every night. A lot of them were either couch surfing, staying at friends' places, or even just sleeping behind dumpsters in alleys, which is crazy. So Brad and Nick want them to know that there is always a door that they can knock on, get a hot meal, and a comfy bed to sleep on. They have 4 children of their own, 3 from a previous marriage, and Ivy, who they adopted. Their adoption just became official not too long ago with Ivy. So they definitely had a journey to get the organization to where it is today, but the whole community helped out, and everyone came together for such a good cause to make this come together and be the first LGBTQ youth home in Wisconsin. So now it is. They saw an opportunity, they saw the need for it in their community, and they took a step forward and did it. Can you imagine being 12 years old at the time, dreaming of a video game idea, and then making that idea come alive by creating it and pitching it to industry professionals? Like I said, at 12 years old. Sounds absolutely crazy, right? Well, 4 teenage girls who are now 13, they are video game lovers, and they created an anti-bullying game, and it is now published. So it all started when they won the Girls Make Game competition. The Girls Make Game competition is actually a summer camp where girls make games. It's a workshop series designed to help the next generation of women in the gaming industry. So the organization was started by the founders of Learn District, which is a company that's created educational video games and helped young women and non-binary young people publish real games. So these 4 girls came together and they made their game. And it doesn't just stop there. They actually raised over $30,000 to get it published. And it is. It's published now. So it's said that 9 out of 10 U.S. kids play video games. It is becoming absolutely huge. The gaming industry has completely taken over, and these types of companies and organizations are doing what they can to ensure that continues, and especially that women become more a part of it, because it is a male-dominated industry for sure. So this summer camp changed the life of these 4 13-year-old girls, and they like to call themselves Team Sarcastic Shark. Suddenly, now, their world has completely opened to all the possibilities that come along with gaming careers, and then, of course, in a large male-dominated industry. So this started back in 2018 when this group came together and created a game called Shredded Secrets. It follows the students being bullied, and the bully himself, who's secretly struggling with his sexual identity, and a teacher dealing with personal issues of her own. So what is this game about exactly? I did some research because I found it really interesting. Well, the first character that you unlock is the girl getting bullied. And then you go through levels and you unlock more characters, such as the bully himself, the teacher, other people around. So this game really shows sensitivity and social awareness that are the typical of the generation defined by increased activism around a range of social issues like climate change and gun violence. So these young girls created a game, an anti-bullying game, that is also talking about huge social issues like climate change and gun violence. This is some pretty intense topics for such young people to know, let alone create a video game about. So, of course, it was a lot of hard work, and after they did all of their hard work, the design of it was put in front of a panel of judges at the camp, which included executives from Microsoft and PlayStation. And Team Sarcastic Shark won. So you can download their game on Mac and PC for free. These then 12-year-old girls never thought their game would be seen by industry professionals. And now look at them. They have a published video game that you can go and play. The team's crowdfunding campaign money will be used for professionals to continue developing and eventually publishing the game on Steam, which is a video game digital distribution platform, and that'll be in the spring of 2020. And Team Sarcastic Shark had one piece of advice for other young people. They said, be an activist for your own beliefs and be true to yourself. At 13 years old, these girls came up with an amazing idea covering very intense and big topics, and they raised $30,000 and now have a published video game that they created. So the doors for these girls have completely opened up. I am so excited to pay attention to what's up with them. I'm actually going to go check out this video game. I don't know about you, but I'm interested to see exactly what they did with it. Here's a story that you might have seen a little bit about it on the internet. It is about a very cute little puppy with a tail directly on his forehead. Yes, literally a tail directly on his forehead. So the perfectly healthy and happy rescue pup got adopted. And he has a very surprisingly physical feature. This tiny little puppy, his picture blew up on the internet. He literally has a tail-like thing in the middle of his forehead. It's not very big, but he is the cutest little thing. But he got adopted, and he actually got adopted by the founder of the organization that made him so famous, that posted this photo. So her name is Rochelle Stefan. She's the founder of Max Mission. Max Mission is a non-profit dog rescue that helps pups with special needs. So they named this little cute pup Narwhal. He's 10 weeks old with a tail-like growth on his forehead, and he is like the cutest thing you have ever seen. They think that he's like a dachshund and beagle mix, potentially. They actually found him at a dump site in Jackson, Missouri. Apparently hundreds of dogs have been dumped there, and they found little Narwhal like in an alley in a dump site. Oh, it's so terrible. So they gave him x-rays and a vet visit, and he is perfectly healthy just with an extra tail. So there's no medical need to remove it currently, and it is about a third of the size of his actual tail. So there's no pain. He plays for hours. He's a really happy puppy. This story went viral of this cute pup with a tail on his forehead. Like I said, you might have seen him on the internet. He is the cutest little thing. And Rochelle originally had no intentions of keeping him, but the decision to keep him wasn't just for her. The whole rescue company just absolutely fell in love with this little guy. She did receive hundreds of applications for little Narwhal, especially since it blew up on social media. I'm sure there were so many people that wanted to adopt him. She was in fear that the pup might actually get exploited. So she said, if someone's going to make money off of him, I would love to see it go towards the rescue and then save thousands more dogs. So she did. She kept him. She adopted him herself. Max Mission focuses on helping dogs with deformity, clefts, and trauma, since they get euthanized far more than others. And she just believes that every dog deserves a chance. So she's planning to train the little Narwhal as a therapy dog. And since social media has blown up the organization, they have gotten a lot more attention, a lot more love, and a lot more people are adopting dogs with deformity and clefts and trauma, and they're giving these dogs a second chance, which they totally deserve it. It has been very beneficial for saving other pups as well. So go little Narwhal. It's that time of the year, and now we can give back in a whole new way. It is holiday season and everyone is giving back. It's a time where everyone pays forward a little bit extra than usual. We try to give back to those people in need. And now it is done as easy as buying a candy bar. It is the easiest thing you've ever done. With a click of a button, you can give back this holiday season. So let me explain. Denver has officially unveiled Light the World giving machines. So what they are is they look like a regular vending machine that you would get your chocolate bar or your chips from, but you actually use it to donate to local and global charities or individuals with just a simple click of a button. Giving back has literally never been so easy. You can donate items if you like, anything from books, personal items, meals, diapers, whatever it may be. And the options don't just stop there. They have some pretty interesting options. You can donate a chicken to a family in need across the world. There's hand pump installation, year of clean water for one, drill a well, adult education classes, backpacks, school supplies, tutoring. Literally, this vending machine goes above and beyond. It is such an amazing way to give back, and it's so easy. This time of year, it gets a lot of people in the spirit to do good and to give back, but now with making it this easy, I think this time of year is going to even get brighter and brighter for so many people. It's easy to forget that something simple like a chicken can change somebody's day. It can change their life. Just a little bit of compassion, simple compassion with very little effort now. We can do good with the push of a button, and we can brighten up so many more people's days and people's holidays by just doing that, by simply pushing a button. I think this is such a cool idea. You can give someone across the world a wonderful holiday experience. So it's not just helping families in Denver, but it's all over the world, and you can donate to local charities as well. The machines are sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who covers the machine costs, administrative fees, and other overhead. And so this machine looks like you would get your chocolate bar from it, but you're not just getting the chocolate bar. You are really making somebody's day, making their holiday season, changing their life by these machines. I literally just want to go to Denver just so I can push a button and get back. I think it's so cool. It's such a neat idea. I'm so surprised it hasn't actually been thought of before. I wish I invented it. So give back this holiday season. You know, if I've learned anything from reading this story is that we should give back more. And now that it's as easy as that, like, it just shows that we do need to put the effort and give back to those less fortunate when we can. Getting around, using transportation is such a huge thing in so many people's lives. You know, you have to get to work, you have to get to school, you got to get home, wherever you need to go, just to the grocery store. Transportation is huge, and not everyone is fortunate enough to have a means of transportation. Well, the Round Lake Police Department are partnering up with Working Bikes in Chicago to make sure unacclaimed or abandoned bicycles that the police department has is storing, that they're distributed to those in need. So Working Bike donates bikes to individuals in need of transportation and for people in homeless transition, refugee resettlement, youth empowerment programs, all those kind of things. They even send bikes to impoverished countries throughout the world. So Working Bikes does a lot, and now Round Lake Police Department are partnering with them to even make it bigger. There are so many bicycles that are left, and a bicycle can really change somebody's life big time. You know, it can save you so much time to transportation. You can get to work easily, or you could get a job so you by having a means of transportation, you know, or go to the grocery store, go to a friend's house, whatever it may be. We all need transportation means. We can't always walk everywhere. We're not always that fortunate. So Working Bikes donates over 65,000 bikes a year to local and international partners. Thousands of bikes to partners in the countries throughout Latin America and Africa. And now Round Lake Park Police Department will continue to distribute bikes to the community and help those in need. How many of us have bikes sitting in our garage that we don't use often? You know, it seems like such an easy thing that we've had since growing up, but it really can change somebody's life. So I think it's really cool that this police department are now partnering up to make a difference with a bigger company like Working Bikes to really make a difference in this world. It's time for a break, but when we get back, within a few of my stories that I'm going to share with you, I have one that's going to touch your heart about a 75-year-old man who cuddles with cats every single day while he naps. This is while he's volunteering, okay? So stay tuned to listen to this heart-wrenching story.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
are back listening to the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So a passionate swimmer who enjoys swimming in lakes, oceans, the pool, wherever it may be, he has a mission to expose plastic threat. Okay, so the long-distance swimmer Benoit Lecomte has swam 555 kilometers over the course of 3 months through the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch to highlight the issue of plastic consumption. So he is 52 years old. He sailed from Honolulu to San Francisco, swimming through 79,000-ton trash vortex he describes as mainly an underwater smog of microplastic. Ugh, it sounds terrible. He spent 8 hours a day in the water finding everything from abandoned fishing nets to old toilet seats. His supporting crew collected microplastic samples and placed GPS tags on floating plastic waste so that research can better understand how plastic moves through the ocean. You know, I guess he actually was not surprised with all the plastic that he did see. He was expecting it to be pretty bad, but after seeing it day after day, he became numb to it. And what really surprised him was the numbness. Can you imagine spending 3 months swimming through garbage, basically to raise awareness? I think that is amazing how he really took the extra step to raise awareness on things that are a threat. I'm really curious to stay on the loop with this one because I think this could make a difference. So the GPS tags on the floating plastic so that research can better understand it, I think it's a really cool idea. Now, this story is probably one of the cutest things I have ever heard. A Wisconsin man has turned snoozing into a charitable act. Yes, okay, so 75-year-old Terry Lauerman goes to his local animal shelter in Green Bay every day and takes naps with the cats. It's not always his intention, I guess. So according to the founder, Elizabeth, of Safe Haven Pet Sanctuary, Terry strolls into the shelter about 6 months ago with a simple dream and a cat brush in tow. He just walked in and started brushing all the cats. And so on Thursday, he actually never asked to be a volunteer. Eventually, they did have to tell him he was an official volunteer, and he had to fill out a volunteer form because he was always there and just brushing cats and hanging out with them. So Terry visits the cage-free sanctuary where they rescue disabled cats that could be at risk in other facilities. Terry comes daily, and he stays for about 3 hours. Usually when he starts grooming a cat for a bit, he typically just dozes off. He sleeps for about an hour, then he'll wake up and switch cats. So he literally just comes to this cat shelter, this cat sanctuary, brushes the cats, hangs out, takes a nap, wakes up, switches to the next cat. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? He said that brushing the cats is a great experience for him, as it is for all of them. So recently this actually did blow up on social media. The other volunteers in the sanctuary think that him passing out with all the cats is just so wonderful. So they posted it on Facebook, and it has blown up. They are just so happy to have a great, bright human like Terry. Alongside the few photos that I saw on the internet, you actually can just see him napping with all these cats. He just came along one day, introduced himself, says he likes to brush cats and hang out with them, and then it just became an everyday occurrence. He hangs out with the cats, he cuddles, he sleeps. You know, I wish I could spend my days hanging out with cats and sleeping, and so this guy really knows what he's doing. Terry says that his social media blow up, as he calls it, the 15 minutes of fame, leads to just more donations to Safe Haven, and he wants to remind people that he's not the only person dedicating his time to this shelter. He actually put praise to another volunteer named Paula, to what he considers as the cat grandma. He wants to make sure that people do what they do, and what he does every day gets credit as well. I don't know, 75 years old and cuddling with cats all day in a shelter. Sounds like a pretty good life to me. And what a difference, too. You know, blowing up on social media can make a difference for all these organizations. And I think it's so wonderful to get that media attention to help the organizations that need it, that they need that exposure. And now more and more people are going to be inclined to go either adopt a cat or help out, volunteer. Humanity really is great. Since it is that time of year, I'm going to share another holiday story with you because I just love them. It's been 17 years since Laura Landerman Garber first started her own holiday tradition out of her basement of her New Hampshire home. And within those 17 years, it has now grown into a massive international labor of love. So one year, Laura was having Thanksgiving with her family, and they decided just to write some holiday greeting cards for American servicemen stationed overseas. This then became a tradition with her and her family, her friends. Everyone started to become a part of it. They all started writing letters and greeting cards to those stationed overseas. They just thought it would be a nice idea to show some American culture, particularly over the holidays, about gathering together. She just wanted to reach out and do a little extra for them. So, since then, her project garnered an impressive amount of mail. She launched her holiday cards for our military organization from her basement, and the nonprofit is now preparing to send more than 160,000 cards to U.S. troops around the world. 160,000 cards. That is amazing. Just starting out from her basement 17 years ago. So in addition, she's actually receiving cards from adults, children, students, all different people from all different places. She's received several active presidential candidates such as Mark Sanford, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, and Bernie Sanders even. Crazy. So her nonprofit will be collecting holiday cards until December 15th. So she said that she started this just so the servicemen overseas would feel a little bit closer to home. It just started off so small in her basement, and now it has turned into something so wonderful for lots of people around the world. Now, I was really excited to learn about this next story. I think this is super cool. So a heart transplant team at Duke University Hospital became the first in U.S. to transplant an adult heart into a recipient after it had been declared dead. Crazy. So Duke is one of the 5 centers in the United States that has been approved to perform donation after circulatory death. Heart transplants as part of a recently launched clinical trial of a device that circulates warm, oxygenated blood through the organs. I don't know how they created such a crazy thing. So, traditionally, heart donations have been dependent on declaration of brain death. Donation after circulatory death occurs after the heart has stopped beating and the person's death has been declared. So, DCD transplantation is done regularly in the U.S. for organs other than the heart, although DCD heart transplants have been conducted in Europe and Australia. This is the first one to take place in the U.S., which is so crazy. So I guess in 2014, St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney did the first one, but now it is in the U.S. This life-saving device used for the procedure, the TransMedics Organ Care System, helps to preserve hearts and other organs for several hours, actually, after an individual's death. So it has been approved for heart transplants in this trial, but it has not yet been approved to widespread use by the FDA. So I guess they are still going through some things and checking things over. This procedure actually has the potential to expand the donor pool by 30%. So if it is being increased up by 30%, this means that by increasing the number of donated hearts, it would decrease the wait time and the number of deaths that occur while people are waiting. You know, being on that wait list must be the worst feeling in the entire world. So this can help decrease that for a lot of people. They say that it's really important to conduct this clinical trial to determine whether those outcomes are realized or not. But they're really, really excited about what they have done. This is so cool to be happening in the U.S. So the first recipient, a military veteran actually, he was the one that received the heart through this Mission Act, and he is recovering very well. So that is really cool. I think this is such a big milestone in U.S. medical history. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you are going to be notified the next time I have some amazing, more heart-wrenching stories for you. Remember to like and follow us on social media and give a 5-star rating. I cannot wait to share with you next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast.